Plain and Simsim.
And we're live. What's going on? Today we got Sarah Saba Fares,
Thank you.
known realtor, right?
Yeah.
Former Weicker, now with the Sarah Saba
Queenston
Queenston
Realty.
right?
Yep.
With the infamous Mary Saba,
The infamous Mary Saba.
right? You got your own interior design business going on. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You're going to be a mom soon in a couple months. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming on tonight. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So what's going on with this market that we're in right now? I'm going to jump right into it.
All right. Yeah. The market's crazy. The market's crazier than it has been in the past 4 years, which
Yeah.
is like even crazier of a concept, because in 2020 things were insane. You had like 40 to 50 offers on every house.
Yeah.
Everything was going above asking, but at least back then you had 2.5 to 3% interest rates. Now you have 7% interest rates, and there's still multiple offers on every house, and everything's going 100,000 above asking, and people are still buying.
Yeah.
It hasn't really slowed down, which is kind of crazy.
Now, I obviously, being in the, in the Coptic community, we have a lot of doctors and lawyers and pharmacists. These are good paying jobs, and I have had friends that are, in these jobs, and they were having a hard time finding a house.
Yeah, it's impossible to find a house
Because of the interest rate.
Even with a high paying job nowadays, you need cash
Yeah.
to buy a house. Like, if you're not putting a significant amount down, or you're not willing to pay above asking price, like we have a lot of houses nowadays, which is very similar to what we had in 2020, 2021, ask you to waive appraisal and inspection every time you make an offer. And the ones who don't do that don't have a chance.
Wasn't this a very popular thing to do back in like 2020, 2021, waiving appraisals because of the whole
Because of the competition.
thing? Well, because of what was going on around, they didn't want to go in people's homes and all that, like distancing and all that stuff. So they wouldn't even appraise it because they wouldn't even go into the house. I mean, you remember that?
Well, it was more so because of the competition.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. There were people who weren't going into houses. Like, we sold, I think it was 25% of houses on FaceTime, which was crazy.
That's crazy.
And Zoom. But
so what you would walk into the house.
I would
with your
do
phone.
like a FaceTime call with the people, and they would close on the house remotely and then come see it after. Like, they wouldn't even see the house in person until after they closed, which is crazy.
Well, what about the inspection? The inspection still has to go in the house. Obviously, the house would
They
be empty.
still do, yeah, they still do the inspection, but they
Yeah.
get the reports sent to them. Nobody's present for it. That was back in during COVID, but
Right.
now people are just waiving them altogether because there's so much competition. If you're a seller and you put your house on the market, you get 20 offers, and someone is willing to give you 100,000 over asking. They don't want to do an appraisal and they don't want to do an inspection. That's who you're going with.
That's nuts.
That's nuts.
So let's take a step back here now, and I know I kind of jumped into it because I'm very curious into this market right now. How did you get into this business? Like, how did you get into this real estate market business?
So I originally had no interest in real estate. I was still in college when I got my license. I was 19, and my mom had been doing it for years, and she said, just try it. If you hate it, I don't want to be responsible. If you love it, that's great. Like, she didn't push me either way. So I joined her team, and I kind of acted like an apprentice almost for a few years, and I worked under her. And then I started to gain more and more of my own business. And then I went to grad school. I took a year off from working in real estate, went to grad school, and I graduated December 2019, and I applied for a PhD. And then I was starting at that point to make a lot of money in real estate, and I was doing really well. So I actually withdrew my PhD application, and I pursued real estate full time, and it was the best thing I ever did.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is, I guess this is like a little known advice that you should always listen to your parents because
Not always, not always,
not
but,
always,
but yeah,
most often than not.
it was an option.
Yeah.
Right. They never pushed me either way.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to grad school. They encouraged me to do that. They encouraged me to apply for a PhD. But my mom was always, even with both my sister and I, she never pushed us because she didn't want us to get into some industry and end up hating it and blaming her. She just didn't want the blame on her.
Yeah.
So we both chose our own paths, and it ended up working out.
So what was your PhD going to be in? I mean, I know that you have psychology, right? Your master's in psychology. Mm-hmm. So what were you going to do your PhD in?
So I wanted to study, and it kind of goes hand in hand with real estate, behavioral economics. So why people buy what they do and
Genius.
why. Yep, it would have been great, and I
Yeah.
ended up working kind of in that field anyway. So I still use behavioral economics every day, but I don't study and research it, which would have been less fun.
Do you think it's necessary for real estate agents to kind of take even like small courses in psychology?
Yes, without question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to. So the best realtors I know are the ones who are best with people.
Yeah.
Like my mom is everyone's mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, she
That's true.
She is so motherly, and she is so. The word that everyone uses to describe my mom is trustworthy.
Yeah.
And that's why people go back to her and they refer their friends and their family, and that's why she's as successful as she is. And she just had an innate kind of psychology to her. Like she always understood, and she learned more when I learned more. And we worked on it together, and we ended up pursuing the same style in our businesses. So she definitely is a little too nice, and I definitely protect my boundaries a little more. So that's one thing that I have learned over the years. I used to kind of let people walk all over me, and now I have very strict boundaries. And that came from giving a little bit too much of myself in order to appease the people I was working with. And sometimes psychology goes out the window and you just get caught up in it. And I realized later on, like a few years later, that I had to bring that stuff back, and boundaries are important, and understanding the other person is important, but I also had to like protect my own peace. So there's a lot. There's your own psychology you have to deal with. There's other people. Understanding how they think and how they work is important, and it really helped me over the years.
Do you think that like a select group of people are more abusive of the relationship that you build with them when, you know, buying them or selling a home, and that's when you're trying to find your peace by kind of limiting or putting in boundaries?
So it's funny because interestingly enough, there are some very generous people in the world, and then there's some very stingy people, and I don't just mean that financially. I mean, like, some people are generous with their time, with their money. They're generous in offering you respect, and some people won't give you that. Some people think, like, I've had a lot of people who have the mentality of, you work for me. And that's not true. I don't work for anyone. I pick and choose who I work with. If I choose not to work with someone, like, sometimes there's no amount of money that's worth taking abuse. And I am learning that more and more as the years go on. And especially lately, as I grow into becoming a mother, I definitely have to put my foot down a little more with people who think that they own me, because I owe more to my family and myself than I do to anyone else, and that sometimes is very hard for people to understand. I've also run into a lot of very wealthy people who make 6 to 7 figures who are some of the cheapest people I've ever met and the nastiest people I've ever met. And then I have some people 6 to 7 figures that are some of the most generous people I've ever met. And there isn't a category that either one of them falls into, really. Like, I can't say that all wealthy people are one way, and some of the most generous people have been people who really don't make much at all. So there isn't necessarily a category that those abusive people fall into, but they exist, and they suck.
I think that also falls in with a lot of a lot of different occupations, whether medicine or an engineer or attorney. I think that jobs that allow you to work with people more, this is when you're going to find out if the people that you're working with, they kind of like show who they really are during. Yeah. Because you're not always talking business with them 24/7. No. There are going to be some side conversations or whatever. You're going to see some interactions here and there. And it kind of gives you an idea of the kind of individual that you're working with. And so it kind of takes a toll on you at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. People are crazy.
Yeah.
People are crazy.
What was the craziest story that you've been in, or the craziest sale that you've been involved in?
Craziest sale I've been involved in? I'm in a pretty crazy one right now, but we'll save that for another day. There was one sale that I had, I think late 2022, early 2023, where I had sold this couple's house. They moved into a small townhouse and they were looking for like their forever home. And we get to the closing table and find out after like 4 months of being under contract that the seller, who lived in China, hadn't paid their taxes in 10 years and didn't have a taxpayer ID number and therefore could not close on the house. So they had put their stuff in storage. They had packed up their house. They were ready to close that day and come to find out that they couldn't. So we had to kind of, and this was during COVID, so that's partially why this happened. Not really. I mean, the seller not paying their taxes is not because of COVID, but the reason we couldn't expedite anything was because of COVID. So the seller ended up having to go to an embassy in China on a certain day. They were closed. They had to go back, get all the paperwork done. That in and of itself, that whole process took about 6 months. So they were living out of their cars and out of storage units and like the small little apartment that they were living in or townhouse for another 6 months until finally we were able to close. So it was a roller coaster for these people. And it may not sound as crazy, but it was wild to have to deal with the realtor on the other end. She was hanging up the phone on me all the time, yelling at me. I've had a lot of realtors yell at me too. They're very abusive sometimes. So that was definitely one of the craziest sales I've ever been a part of. I've had a couple of crazy ones, but that was the longest, like, drawn out, I would say.
How can a buyer be able to buy a house from China without going through, like, because you have to meet up with a loan officer and you have to...
Not if you're buying it cash.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone can buy a house cash. You could go to another country right now and buy a house cash. There's checks and balances in place, but yeah. I don't know what happened this time. They just didn't pay taxes on the house for 10 years. I don't know.
So how. They were outside of the country for 10 years.
Yeah, never lived in the house once. They like just bought it and rented it out.
And that's how they never paid the taxes on it. So they paid the taxes on it first.
I guess so.
Before they.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So did that couple? Did they already find their house, their new house? Did they already close on that house, or were they waiting for the close?
They were waiting on this house
to find the other.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Now, when you say that real estate agents were hanging up on you, do you think that that's because of the clients that they're working with putting pressure on them or anything like that, or
No.
making their lives miserable, you know?
Some people are just miserable and they're awful to work with, whether they're working or not working. Like, I
Yeah.
imagine this person was miserable before they, like, as a person and not a realtor. So I see a lot of that too.
So then they end up bringing in their baggage
Yeah.
into their
A lot
job.
of people do that.
Yeah. And you just take it out on the.
Yep. On me. Little old me.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Now here's the thing. There's been a lot of talk recently about this new law or something that came out, and I tried to read it. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and I figured who else to ask.
Yes. So
So
the new,
walk me through this.
the new NAR law. So pretty much what this means is that we're no longer allowed to advertise commission on a listing. So previously, and even now, up until June, I believe, on the MLS, if I put a house on the MLS, I put the commission rate on there. So a seller wants to put their house on the market, the listing agent and the seller agree on a set commission, and you put whatever commission you are offering to the other side on the listing. And that listing goes up on the MLS, and other realtors can see it. The law pretty much states that you can't advertise it anymore. So it's not that sellers don't have to pay commission. It's just that we can't put it on the MLS. It would behoove a seller to pay commission to a buyer's agent, because otherwise, if I'm a buyer's agent and I post June call a listing agent and say, are you offering commission to buyers on the sale? And they say no, I'm just not going to show the house. You know, I will, like, it's just not worth it for me. And I'll tell my buyers that, and if they want to go through the listing agent, they're welcome to, but I'm just not going to work for free. So it would benefit both the listing agent and the seller and the buyer's agent for the seller to offer commission. Because the listing agent would have to take on another client and also be paid half of the commission rate. So either way you slice it, someone would have to be working for free if the seller doesn't offer commission to a buyer's agent. And buyers are not paying commission. Buyers are already paying hundreds of thousands of dollars and can barely afford it in this market. To add a commission on top of that, and they can't build it into the mortgage. They would have to pay cash. It's just not going to work. So it would benefit a seller to offer commission to whoever's bringing a qualified buyer.
So before this law came out, or it's passed or whatever, who used to pay what commission? Again, I'm still confused. Like, who paid whose commission?
So if you want to sell your house tomorrow,
Okay,
you would be paying from 4 to 6%. That
Okay.
commission would be split between both agents, the selling agent and the buying agent.
so
They
say
both,
2-2 or 3-3,
Yeah.
whatever.
yes. So they both have very different roles in the process. A listing agent has a very different role than a buyer's agent. They're doing two completely different jobs and representing two completely different parties. So each one deserves to be compensated fairly, you would assume. So you pay 2.5% out to one agent, 2.5% out to the other agent if it's 5%. And you would go through the closing, and then 5% gets deducted from the top, and that's it. So this new law, pretty much what it means is the seller doesn't have to give a commission out to whoever brings a qualified buyer. Usually so the seller can offer just 2% just to the listing agent. But then why would the listing agent do the job
For
of a
2%.
buyer's agent? Yeah.
Do the job of a buyer's agent.
Do the job for both. Because they're already listing the house. And again, there are very different roles. So the listing agent, if they're only taking 2%, why would they take on a buyer for free? It would benefit the seller to at least compensate one agent or another for the job. They're two separate jobs. So to only give out 2% to one party to do the job, to do two jobs, isn't necessarily fair compensation.
So I'm assuming you're not in favor of this.
I'm not in favor of. I'm going to advise my sellers that they should still offer a commission to a buyer's agent. They don't necessarily have to offer as much if they don't want to. But everyone works harder when they're getting paid. Everyone works for you better when they're getting paid.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work twice as hard for less money. And a lot of realtors won't. And there's good and bad with this law, because in 2020 and 2021, we had like 1 million new realtors enter the market. And it was very easy to make money in real estate. So this is a way definitely to slow that down. Like, buyers agents are going to have a really, really hard time. If you just represent buyers, and a lot of sellers and a lot of listing agents are not offering a commission, it's going to be very difficult to be a buyer's agent, because buyers are not willing to pay commission and no one else is willing to pay commission. How are you going to get paid? You know, it definitely benefits listing agents for sure. So if a seller calls me, says, I want to put my house on the market, I'm going to tell them to pay commission to both parties. And as a good listing agent, I benefit everyone else. There are some listing agents out there who will sign whatever you want. If a seller says, I want to offer 1% commission, someone will just sign on the dotted line just to get the business. But that doesn't help them sell the house, because who's going to want to show it? And what buyer is going to want to pay commission out of their pocket to whatever realtor they're working with? So it's a little bit fuzzy. I'm not sure how. It is an industry changing law. So it is going to change things for sure. I'm just not exactly sure how, but I do know of all of the listing agents that I have spoken to about it, everyone has agreed that it benefits a seller to pay commission as opposed to not. It'll help get your house sold faster to pay people working for you.
If it's not broken, don't fix it.
It's broken. It's a little broken. It's a little broken.
In what way? I mean, like, I guess the point I was trying to make is that, like, everybody was getting paid before, and yeah, not every real estate agent is equal, 100%. Yeah. There are people that work their butts off.
Yeah.
Right, and there are people that, you know, they see an opportunity and they seize it. You know, like COVID or whatever, easy money to make.
So that's the part that was broken.
Exactly, and I know where you're coming from, but the point I'm trying to say is that, like, why complicate things now when they were working before? I mean, yeah, you're going to have people that will come in and ride the wave at the end, you know, just make an extra, you know, a couple bucks here and there. But now is this complicating things for the industry moving forward?
It's going to complicate things for the entire industry, yeah. Some MLSs have come out and said, we're not part of the National Association of Realtors, so we're not going to follow this, but they could get sued. I think the best way for this to kind of move forward is to somehow build commission into a mortgage, which...
What?
Yeah. That's the only way...
Bring the mic a little bit closer to you.
That's the only way...
Grab it.
Got it. You want me to eat it?
Yeah. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. So build it into a mortgage.
Yeah, that's one of the only ways that buyers will be able to afford commission. Because what buyer is ready, willing, and able to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a house, and on top of it, pulling out X amount for commission? It's very
for 30
difficult.
years.
Well, no, I'm saying cash.
You mean like they're going to take the money out?
They're going to take a mortgage out on the house.
Right.
Right? And then if this law is supposing that buyers are to pay commission, the buyers would have to pay cash. They would have to have the cash. And it's very rare that buyers have that kind of cash. So the only realistic way, not realistic, I guess, one of the ways that it could work is if they can build it into the mortgage. But again, to your point, they're paying interest for 30 years.
On a commission.
On a commission. So it's fuzzy.
But why do it? I mean, like, that's a
There were a couple realtors who were like pretty shitty and like deserved to get sued.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the entire industry deserved the backlash of that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why?
But we got it. So that's where we are. It's fuzzy.
So who made that into a law? Like, the Congress voted on this or something, or who voted on this?
I believe so. I'm honestly not sure of all of the details. I took a little bit of time off from work since I got pregnant, but
and deservedly so.
Yeah, it's been a long pregnancy.
Yeah.
so I took a little. The blessing of working in real estate is that I can afford to take that kind of time off and make my own schedule. I know how this law is going to affect me. I don't know the details of what happened as much as I should.
And I don't know either. I tried to read it, but again, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. So, I'm going to do some more investigation. But I feel like just leave the point I'm trying to make is that, like, you can have fraudulent people in every industry.
Yeah.
And if you're going to clamp down on every single industry and make life worse for everybody only because a select few are bad people, you're going to harm more than what you're trying to do good. Is the point I'm trying to make.
Yes, I agree with you.
So
it's going to harm a lot of realtors, a lot of full-time realtors too, which is sad.
Yeah.
The people who do this part-time,
they don't care.
They're done.
Yeah.
They're done. It's not gonna work for them anymore.
Yeah.
It's very hard to work in this industry part-time and be successful. So with this new law, it's going to be even harder for them. The good realtors will survive. They survive most of the changes. But people who don't do this full-time or full-time buyers agents, their buyers agents are going to struggle. Yeah. And it's not easy for anyone.
So then what what would be a solution to this if you're a buyer's agent?
So nowadays we have the same way. So for example, if I want to sell your house, right? There are contracts involved. There's listing agreements involved. So you would sign on the dotted line saying, I'm going to pay X commission. It's going to be the same for buyers. We would have to have them sign like a buyer's agreement saying they would pay X amount in commission, or that they agree to work with you exclusively. Because right now there's no loyalty with buyers. Buyers can work with whoever they want. When you're a listing agent, you're working for the seller. You have an agreement in place. Buyers can work with whoever they want. And now if there's no promise that you're even going to get paid at all, it may not be worth it to work with certain buyers or work with buyers at all. So it's going to shake the industry for sure.
What does this make it a seller's market?
It's been a seller's market. So seller's market versus a buyer's market is when the seller has the upper hand or the buyer has the upper hand. Right now, buyers are screwed.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, moving forward, will that even make it worse for buyers? I mean, this will make it a predominantly... it's been a seller's market since 2020.
Yeah.
Right? And you get lucky when you get lucky, and then that's that if you're a buyer. But predominantly, for 4 years now, it's been a seller's market. Is this going to make it...
Will it shift, you're asking?
No. Will it make it more of a seller's market than it ever been? Like, now, the sellers really, they have the choice of the real estate agent. They have the choice of the buyer, because now only select buyers, like, if they
yes and no
refuse to pay
so
for
it depends on the seller and it depends on the listing agent.
Yeah.
So, for example, if a seller wants to only pay 1% total, a lot of buyers agents are not going to want to work with them, and a lot of buyers may go directly through the listing agent to get the house. the listing agent's going to have to do 2 jobs, but some listing agents will be willing to take that on. It really depends everyone on their preferences and what they're willing to do or not. I would not be willing to do 2 jobs for 1% or 2%.
Right.
And I know a lot of people wouldn't be willing to do that. A lot of good listing agents are not going to do
Especially
2
in
jobs
today's
for no
economy.
money. Yeah, we can't afford that.
You have to bring in a photographer. You have to
spend a
I
lot of
remember.
money.
Yeah,
You spend a lot of money on listings.
Yeah. It's not just, hey, we'll take a couple pictures, put it on. No, you have to set the house, prep it, make sure it looks all nice and neat, and then list it. And then you're doing your advertising, you're doing your walkthroughs, you're doing your video and all that. And it takes a lot of time and effort. It's not really about what you do. It's about the time that you spend to do it.
To prep it, to get it on the market, to make it look nice. Like, we go the extra mile for all of our listings.
Yeah.
We get them professionally staged, and we make them look like every house can look like $1 million house, we say.
Right. Well, I mean, in this economy, it probably does.
Well, yeah. Everything is $1 million house in this economy. But yeah, any house can look like $1 million, you know?
Yeah.
If you spend a little extra time and a little extra money to prep it correctly.
Yeah.
So there are some people who will just put a house on the market the way it is, and sometimes they sell, but they will definitely always sell for more if you take the time to prep it well.
Do you think the market is going to crash? Because I feel like the prices just there's no going down.
Crash is a fun word,
and we talked about that before.
Yeah, crash is an interesting word to use. So in our lifetimes, there's been 3 big crashes: 2000, 2007, 2008, and 2020. All of those were due to pretty significant global changes. So a global the most recent and the only one that I've experienced was the pandemic.
Yeah.
To say the market's going to crash, as in we're going to have a complete market shift from a seller's market to, so like 1 or 2 houses on the market and 100 people want them, to 100 houses being on the market and 1 or 2 people want them, is a very significant change. A lot would have to happen. A lot of people would lose their jobs. A lot of economies would be affected. It's not a small thing. It would take something pretty significant to cause that. The word I would use is a market correction. The market does correct every so often. And what could cause that is, so there's a few things: the economy as a whole, politics, wars, like stuff going on in the world right now.
We got a whole bunch of those stuff.
It's an expensive world to live in. It's an expensive world to live in. And this is not to be political at all, but to sign a 1-point-something trillion dollar bill every couple of months costs us all money. And it costs us all something. And that's not to criticize any administration or anything like that, but it does affect us.
It's the reality that we live in.
It's the reality we live in. Wars cost money.
Right.
And it costs taxpayer money. And during the pandemic specifically, one thing that was signed into office that affected all of us was, I forgot the exact word, but mortgage forgiveness. People didn't have to pay their mortgages. Like, you were allowed to not pay your mortgage for a long time.
That.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And that affects the economy as a whole. Giving student loan forgiveness affects the economy as a whole. Like, a lot of these things sound great on paper, but they're also the reason that some families can't buy gas and groceries on the same day. You know, it does affect people negatively. So I've been doing this since 2015. Yeah. I noticed the market changed slightly. Not slightly. It changed after the 2016 election. A lot of immigrant families were nervous about being deported in 2016, so nobody was really buying anything because I had a lot of buyers who were like, we don't want to buy anything just in case we get removed from the country. So that was pretty significant. Again, in 2020, that was extenuating circumstances, but still, there was a huge market shift. And if there's a change in presidency in 2024, we will likely see a shift in the market. I don't know how significant it would be. I imagine foreign aid would be limited if we have a Republican president. I imagine student loan forgiveness is going away. A lot of the inflation problems that we've been having could be solved with trade agreements, stuff like that. But again, who knows? So the correction I would see in the market would likely have to do with those things, with like global changes. And right now we're in a rough spot.
Yeah. I mean, because of the price of the houses kept going up.
Yeah.
Right.
Doubled.
Every year it keeps getting a tax assessment.
Yes.
And the tax assessment is just
not nice.
It just keeps going up.
Yep.
Uncle Sam wants more piece of that pie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now, I'm paying property taxes like I should be living in Short Hills at this.
I know. Yeah.
And it's just like,
but
it's crazy.
But that also goes hand in hand with how much your house is worth now.
Right.
The houses are worth significantly more than they were 2, 3, 4 years ago. Even last year.
When you say market correction, because I know that, like you said, prices went up even compared to last year. When you say market correction, are you expecting prices to go down? Because at some point, I mean, there are houses that are like the cottages.
Yeah.
Those are not $500,000 houses.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But the problem is that right now, houses that aren't worth the money are selling. Everything's selling. Every house on the market sells. There isn't one house you could put on the market that doesn't sell. The problem is, it's hard to say. Because if life gets more affordable and there's still a housing shortage, there's going to be more competition. And what we need for a market correction is less competition and more houses. And there just simply are not enough houses.
Well, they stopped building houses because of the demand has been going down.
People are building like crazy.
They're building townhouses. And they're not building single-family houses.
No, they are not. Yes, multi-unit living is the way these days. There's a lot of... So I had a theory recently that I think millennials are going to kind of shift their perspective on the American dream. Because living... Right now, millennials can't really afford anything but an older, less desirable house. Like even and not to say that townhouse living there's anything wrong with it, but millennials, we like space. We want yards for the dogs.
Facts.
Yeah, see? So we want newer. Some of us are willing to do a fixer-upper, some of us are not. And we're paying exorbitant prices for those. For the houses that require a lot of work to make it what we want it to be. On the other side of the coin, there are builders who are building these immaculate, like skyscrapers and these apartment living style, almost little towns. So there's a few of them that are coming up actually in our immediate area, that are going to be luxury style apartments with like really nice living. They've got pools, they've got courtyards, they've got little shops underneath. Like it's going to feel like a mini self-contained city. And I have and those are just as expensive as paying a mortgage. Without a huge down payment, you're living in the renovated, beautiful apartment, even though it's smaller, you have access to all of these amenities, and someone else is fixing it. You don't have to do any of the fixing upping, you know? You don't have to do anything. You just live there, and someone else takes care of it. So I have a feeling, and this comes from having people in my life, actually, who make a lot of money, say that they don't necessarily care to buy a house. Why would I buy a house when I could live in this really nice apartment and have this really nice lifestyle and not have to fix anything or pay too much out of pocket, pay association fees, all of the expenses that come with owning a property? A lot of these very wealthy millennials are choosing not to do that. So I have a feeling that apartment living and multi-unit living is going to become the new norm, and pricing millennials out of the housing market would definitely change the state of the market. It would change it from the demand being so high on every house. And I'm not saying millennials are the only people in the marketplace, but they make a pretty significant part of the market right now. So, and more of them are moving into these luxury apartments. So, and these luxury townhouses that have like a dog park and a golf simulator and a bowling alley inside and a nice pool and bars and basketball courts and all this stuff. The amenities are very attractive for a lot of younger millennials. And even like, not that Gen Z is approaching the age where they're also going to be living on their own, and I don't see much of Gen Z in the market for purchase at all. I have a feeling that Gen Z specifically is definitely going to take on this apartment style living, even more than millennials.
Well, a lot of Gen Z now, they're back living with their parents.
A lot of millennials are living with their parents.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's not like living with our parents is nothing new. I mean, I didn't.
And there's nothing to be ashamed of for
No.
it either.
Are you kidding me?
Save your money.
Yeah.
I wish I still
100%.
lived with my parents.
Oh my God. Dude, no, like, as Egyptians, right? Or at least more so in the Coptic community, like, I didn't move out of my parents' house until I was, like 28 is when I got married.
Yeah, same.
28 years old.
Good
I didn't
for
have to pay a mortgage. I was just paying for my car note, was paying for my cell phone and car insurance. And then that was it. Like, I got no, I was saving money for a wedding, and all that. But other than that, like, it's, and I feel like now a lot of Gen Z, they realize that, I can live back with my parents, kind of take the weight off my shoulder.
But it's not as desirable for them. For whatever reason, Gen Z is, I think, more apprehensive about staying in their parents' house. They want to feel like they grew up. They went to college. They did the things like a lot of millennials were able to move out after college and live a certain lifestyle before they got settled down. And that's the majority. I'm not saying in our community, but the majority of millennials would do that.
Yeah.
And there is definitely a huge benefit to that. You mature pretty quickly when you have to live on your own and figure it out on your own, as opposed to being in our community and having our moms cook for us every night until we move out. Yeah. So a lot of Gen Z, they're not seeing like the benefits that come with, like, you go to college, you graduate, you become an adult. They're not seeing that because they're going right back to where they were pre-college. So it's going to be a lot harder for them, which is unfortunate, but I see that being a problem.
Well, do you think that the shift of the work environment, like a lot of us work from home, do you think that might have something to do with younger generations? I mean, I'm talking as if I'm like in my 50s, but younger generations right now that are starting to be able to buy a house, right? Is there a shift in the way that they think regarding purchasing or doing a big purchase, like putting money down for a mortgage? Do you see that the younger generation are shying away from buying a house?
Definitely.
and going more towards this like high-end luxury apartments.
Definitely.
Where there's zero responsibility.
Yeah.
You just show up, be there.
It seems unattainable. Like buying a house, the American dream seems like an unattainable goal for Gen Z.
Is it dead? Is the American dream dead?
In this economy, the prospect of buying a house, living comfortably, being able to afford a nice living is definitely close to dying right now. I can't say that for the future. If things correct, and I hope they do, then I can see people wanting to purchase homes and build equity and have an asset in their lives and use that to move forward. But right now, for a lot of Gen Z and young millennials, that doesn't even seem attainable. So it's not something they're working towards. They work to live and enjoy themselves, because the alternative is to starve themselves, not go out, not have fun, to save up for what seems like an unattainable goal.
Is it worth it for young generations right now? When I say young, I mean, oh my God, like people our age. We're still young, right?
We're still young. I'm young. I don't know about you.
All right, I'm a grandpa.
I'm not. I'm a young mom. I feel like a teen mom.
No. You're young. You are very young. I'm a lot older. No, but do you think it's worth it for young people like ourselves to purchase a home now? Because the way that I'm looking at it, again, I'm not an expert. You are. I'm just the way that I look at it is that I'll be terrified to buy a home today because I'm afraid that the bubble's going to burst. People keep saying that we're in a bubble. And then I'm terrified that it's going to get to a point where cottages cannot be $700,000.
They are.
I know. But like,
so
if the market was to correct itself, like you said earlier, the money that I put down now, am I going to be belly up in this?
Some people will be. Some people are paying significantly more than what they should on a lot of these houses.
Is it out of fear? Is it out of fear of missing out, that they're, this is their last opportunity to buy a house? If they don't go aggressive at this, there's no other chance for them to get it? Like what's the because I just can't fathom the idea that somebody will put down $700,000 for a cottage.
For a townhouse sometimes.
But it's
very
a newer,
small living.
But it's a newer townhouse. Like I've seen.
Yeah, but 3 years ago,
townhouses,
for $700,000, you were buying a nice 2,500 square foot single family home.
Exactly.
And nowadays, that's not an attainable goal. So, a lot of the people in the marketplace right now are high income professionals.
Yeah.
People with a lot of cash. It is impossible.
Cash is king.
It's almost impossible to buy a house without a lot of money right now, without a lot of cash on hand.
Yeah.
Almost impossible, because you have to be waiving appraisals and inspections. You have to have a little bit more money to persuade a seller to choose you over the guy who is willing to do that stuff. So the motivation for a lot of these people are more space. Even off-market deals are expensive now. Like, you have to convince a seller to not put their house on the market, you have to pay them a little extra. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So
to convince a seller not to put their house on the market.
Yeah. You have to pay them a little more.
Who pays them a little more?
The buyer.
But how would the buyer know?
So every seller is different, right? So we have a lot of sellers who will call us and say, we don't want a lot of people in our houses. Show it to a couple people that you know, and we'll sell directly to them. And we have some people that will say that, but also say, if I don't get the price I want, I'm going on the market. And they will get more on the market. They know that. So if you're selling to them off market, it needs to be kind of a sweet deal. It needs to be enticing. So a lot of buyers will pay a little bit more to have the upper hand. Like, I have a few off market deals now that they're not waiving appraisal or inspection because there's no competition. They're paying They're actually paying a little under, in all honesty. But
The buyer is not
that's an
waiving.
anomaly. Yeah, the buyer's not waiving appraisal or inspection right now for this one off market deal. But for another one I have, they're paying a little extra than what it would necessarily be worth because they don't want the competition.
So you just said that they're not waiving it because the demand is not high right now.
No, demand's high. They're not waiving it because the seller doesn't necessarily want too many people in their house, in and out of their house. It's a preference thing. Some sellers, we'll ask sellers when we go into their houses, what's your motivation? Do you want the most money or do you want the quickest sale? Like, what is your priority? For people who want the quickest sale, we say put it on the market. Or we say it depends. It really depends. Every situation is different. So for people who want the most money, I'll start with. For people who want the most money, the best strategy is to put it on the market, get yourself a bidding war, and have people overbid, and that's where you get all your money. For people who want the quickest sale, sometimes we'll have buyers on hand, like people that we know that are looking in this specific area or looking for this specific house. And we'll say, listen, if you want a quick sale, I have someone who is willing to pay the price that you want. And they can close in 30 days, 45 days, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it really is the seller preference thing. During COVID, people didn't want anyone in their houses. So a lot of people were like, if you have someone, show it to the one person. Like, they didn't want to do open houses. They didn't want as many people as possible in the house. So preferences have definitely changed over the past few years. And
so what are you seeing now? People don't care anymore, or they still have that, I don't want to be in my house right now?
Well, today I saw someone walking outside with a mask on. It's 2024 in April. And it was like 77 degrees out today.
Maybe they're allergic. Pollen's in here.
It was wild.
Hey, listen, we can't judge. You want to wear a mask, you wear a mask. You know what I'm saying? No, I agree with you. I mean, I think right now, if you're still wearing a mask in 2024, I will genuinely pray for you.
Alone in your car too. That's a little
favorite.
Excessive. That's my favorite one to see.
I've seen people do that.
Running outside. That's a fun one. But maybe pollen.
Maybe pollen.
What you said.
Maybe pollen.
Maybe pollen.
I don't know. I don't. You know what it is? I. It's such an easy thing to talk about.
It is.
But it's such a hard thing to discuss.
Yes, I agree
because
with you.
it's like, I genuinely feel bad for people that are still wearing a mask. And I mean no disrespect, and I know that you don't either. But it's just why? Why? Why are you wearing a mask?
There were a few times that I wore a mask, like on an airplane pregnant. I got COVID pregnant.
You got COVID pregnant?
I did. I got COVID when I was 9 weeks pregnant, and I was...
How many weeks are you on right now?
30.
Okay. Why can't it just say months?
7 months. Because
no. I'm not saying
weeks
you. No, yeah, I'm not saying
general,
you.
yeah.
I'm just saying because I have to calculate it in my head.
Because
30 weeks divided by 4.
So
Yeah,
because every week is a different milestone.
Okay.
Something different is happening every week.
Okay.
And if I say to a woman who has had a baby before that this happened during this week or whatever, we kind of understand the milestones that are supposed to happen at those times. It's a little different.
It's just my lazy mindset. I'm like, what, 30 weeks? Okay, that was 5.
But yes.
Carried to 1. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
7 months pregnant now,
Okay.
but
That's
I
awesome.
was
Well, you look glowing.
Thank you. So I was about 2 months pregnant when 2 or 3 months pregnant when that
must
happened.
have been scary though.
It was awful.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will take medication when they're pregnant. I didn't want to. That was just a personal preference, but you have to keep your fever down while you're pregnant. So
what did you do?
Had to take Tylenol a couple times, which is fine.
Okay.
But I was sleeping all day, every day for a week.
I can't imagine.
It was awful.
When I got COVID, it felt like, I think the first day, it felt like a Corvette. It's a really fast car if you don't know. Not you. Other people. a Corvette just like ran me over and then reversed and then ran me over again. Like,
I felt like
I just
got
couldn't
hit
move.
by a bus. It was awful. It was awful.
Yeah.
And who gets COVID in December of 2023? That's so embarrassing.
I got COVID January.
This January?
No. Chill. Chill. January 2022?
Okay, see, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I got it in 2023.
Yeah,
End
yeah.
of 20, like 4 months ago.
That's COVID really likes you. Look at that.
I know, it was the first time.
Yeah, long lost friend. How are you?
I was so pumped, too. So arrogant about the fact that
yeah.
I had never gotten it before. I was like, yeah, I never got COVID.
It was like, so
Lucky me. But no.
Yeah. No, I think honestly, like, and the other thing too is that, like, I don't think right now it's worth it for anybody that is not already an established real estate agent to be a real estate agent now.
No.
Because
I
of
would
that
not
new
encourage
law that's
anybody
coming
to
out.
get into real estate right now. I really would not. If you've been doing it, you're going to be just fine.
Right. Because you already have your clientele. You've built your clientele. Yeah. You've had connections.
Yeah. People know me. They trust me. Like, I've been doing this for long enough that, like, I've seen market changes. I've seen industry changes, and they don't rattle me as much. They rattle me, of course, because any change is, like, going to affect me. But regardless, I know it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. But to get into an industry that's actively changing is very difficult. I wouldn't encourage it.
Do you watch these shows on Netflix, Selling Sunset and all that? There was the other one. What is it called?
Buying Beverly Hills.
Buying Beverly Hills.
So that one is actually...
which one do you like better and why?
I like Buying Beverly Hills more because it's less of a
drama
spectacle.
Yeah. Which one is more accurate?
Buying Beverly Hills is more accurate. They actually talk about real estate and they sprinkle in some drama.
Yeah.
Whereas Selling Sunset is like it's reality TV filmed in nice houses. That's how I describe it to people.
Is true.
That's it. It's a reality like drama.
Would you wanna be in that atmosphere?
In like the atmosphere where I'm selling $30 million homes or drama?
Well, I mean, you can't sell $30 million homes
without drama. That's true.
So,
that's very true. Based on what I've seen of those shows, I don't particularly have an interest in being involved in that kind of like office drama at all. I don't like drama.
Nobody does.
I don't like people who cause drama. I will distance myself as much as I can from it. So I don't think I would thrive in that environment.
Yeah.
I'm much happier doing what I'm doing now, working with like, Joe and Susie from across the street, like nobodies. Like I love that.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not dressing up like crazy. I'm not wearing Louboutins to showings. That's like beyond anything I can fathom. I'm not doing any of that.
So you think it's a little bit over the top?
It is, but it is entertaining.
No, 100%.
Like I'll give them that. I do watch all of it.
100%. It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a little bit over the top with with everything that goes on.
Yeah, it's too
I mean,
much.
I think it's
Selling Sunset is wild. Like,
yeah.
And I've gotten sick of it, but I will watch another season if they put one out. You know what I mean? Like I'm over it, but I love it.
It's the show that you love to hate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The most accurate real estate show I've ever seen was like the $1 Million Listing franchise. That is actually what we do every day.
All right.
And it's interesting because when I had just graduated grad school and withdrew my PhD application, it was December of 2019, January 2020. So I was like, okay, how do I motivate myself? Like what can I do? I started reading a lot of books and like real estate books and stuff like that. Sales, all of the fun sales psychology books. And then March 2020 came around and I was like panicking because I got married in August of 2020. So I was like, wow, I actively chose a career and the market just crashed and I'm getting married in a few months. How am I going to make any money? I have a house to buy. Like at that time we had just made an offer on a house and my income was pretty crucial at the time
Right.
to paying for that house.
Yeah.
So when the pandemic hit, I got rattled. And I actually started watching $1 Million Listing, and I became so motivated from it. And I tripled my income that year in real estate.
That is awesome.
Yes, that was good. So that's one of the best shows that I would encourage any real estate agent to watch.
Why did you want to pursue your PhD when you were, also real estate?
Why did I or didn't I?
Why did you put in your application for the PhD?
At that time I was doing well in real estate, but my first love is and always has been psychology. I
Right.
love learning about people. I would go to school for the rest of my life if I could. I loved being in
Excuse
school.
me, I'm gonna go throw up. Ugh.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people say that. I absolutely loved being in school, and I genuinely would love to go back to school one day.
Yeah.
But I started making money, and it just kind of clicked. It was something I was really good at, so I stuck with real estate. And I ended up putting all the rest to the side, but I still use it every day, which is a blessing. I'm very happy about that.
If you weren't a real estate agent, what would you do? And not psychology. So psychology and real estate agent, therapist, anything to do with psychology and real estate out of the door.
So I recently started an interior design business. That's probably where it kind of ties the two together. I know I'm not supposed to be doing that right now, but whatever. Yeah, so I love interior design. I love one of the reasons I love real estate and I love psychology is I like understanding what people like about something. So when you go into these beautiful hotels, I was always fascinated by hotels. You walk into a lobby and you immediately feel something. Sometimes you feel a cozy vibe. Sometimes it's extravagant and opulent. And I was always fascinated by how people did that. So I went on my own mission to try to make my house feel a certain way when I bought my house in 2020. And I was I wanted to feel like this safe haven that I'm excited to go home to every day. That's clean and decluttered and minimalist and organized. And I was just really excited to recreate that for myself. And I did it, and people started commenting on how nice it was. And I was like, that's interesting. And then I started staging my every listing that I put on the market. I used to have a stager come in and professionally stage everything. Now I started at that point doing it myself, and the houses that I would stage would sell a lot quicker. And people would make comments about how nice it looked and how everything had its place, and it looked like you could just bring a suitcase and a toothbrush and you were good. So that kind of became a little bit more of a passion for me lately. So I incorporate that into my real estate business, but also there is a psychological aspect of that because you want people to feel as comfortable as possible. You want it to feel inviting. There's a lot involved with understanding why people prefer certain things over others when you're staging. It's a whole world and it mixes my two loves. So that's probably what I would be doing, even though it's not separate from either of those things.
But how do you so when you go into a house, how do you assess, okay, this house we should get something, so when you stage a house, right, you walk into a house and then you look at the house, you're like, okay, well, this house has got vaulted ceiling, it's got window, the floor, whatever, I don't know what I'm saying, but it looks very nice. How do you assess the house? What do you decide? How do you decide what to put where and how?
There are some rules to follow.
Yeah.
In general, you want to fill the space accurately. So for example, a living room, you're going to want to incorporate as much seating as possible without making it look cluttered. You want the rug to cover most of the floor. You want good lighting, sunlight. You want it to feel homey. There are certain things in certain rooms that everyone can kind of agree that they want, right? Like your living room, you want enough seating. Your dining room, you want enough seating. Natural light is always a win. Everyone has their preferences, of course, but there are some rules that you follow generally, and like placement of a couch, how to make the room feel bigger with color. Like color psychology is really interesting when we're staging. It's
everything
fun.
is psychology.
So everything is psychology.
That's crazy.
At the end of the day, that's why I love it.
That's actually very true.
Yeah. It follows me.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Now, do you get like input from the sellers on how to set the house up for the pictures, or is that solely
No,
all
I
on you?
I give them the input.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a house tomorrow we're doing professional photography. I'm going a couple hours early to just make sure everything is in place. The last time I was there, they had a couch that was slightly off-centered, so we're gonna
Move it a
center
little bit.
it. Like little things like that are
Make
important.
a big deal.
They make a big difference.
Especially in the pictures.
Yes. Yep.
I do like looking at the pictures and be like, wow, that's a really big room. That's nice. And I can start envisioning myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put my desk here, put my computer there. You know, you start like building the room in your head based on what you're seeing. And then it kind of gets you excited to go see it in person.
Exactly.
And I think that's the point of getting this whole thing set up. Now, my other question is, young couples that are about to get married, right? Buy a house or rent an apartment first?
Right now or in general?
Let's do in general, and then let's do right now.
I think it depends on the couple. So for couples who want a little extra cash to kind of travel and live slightly beyond their means, I would say rent first and enjoy your life because you have all the time in the world to settle down. Like, I bought my house right when I got married.
Right.
And something in me has always wanted to try living in a city. That's a very unattainable goal now for me because I bought a house in the suburbs. So, I would have loved to live that.
I still wouldn't live in the city, but yeah.
A city.
A city. Okay.
Not necessarily New
When
York.
when we say the city, it's New York. So
In a large city somewhere.
All right, carry on.
You know, I would have loved to experience what that's like to always have like something to do. There's always a show. There's always
you can walk to a coffee shop.
Yeah, there's always something. I would have loved to experience that, but I moved right into the suburbs and I'm stuck there for the next 30 years. So, or until I decide to buy another house for 30 years, or I could decide to sell my house and rent in the city. But those options are a little limited now.
Right.
Because I chose to settle down immediately.
Right.
So, there are some couples who are looking to settle pretty immediately, and for them, I would say go ahead and buy a house. But some people want to live the luxury apartment lifestyle and live in a city, or they don't know where they want to live yet. So in that case, I would say rent. There are a lot of options.
So, I mean, I think the smarter option is to buy a house right out of the gate. You're building equity.
Yeah, but some people don't care about equity right away. You're going to build equity. You're going to buy a house. You're going to live in a house. You're going to settle down.
Yeah, but
you don't necessarily have to build equity right away. You can throw a year or two in there to live somewhere else, you know?
Yeah.
But I agree with you about building equity. But I don't necessarily think like out the gate you throw yourself pretty immediately into adulthood which is good. But some people don't want that. Some people want to kind of like still live as a young adult and travel and do all the things while they can before they get settled, before kids come into the picture, before they get the white picket fence and the golden retriever. You know?
Well, I mean, I think adulthood is, or adulting is what I call it is, the moment you graduate college and you're working a full-time job.
You're an adult.
You're an adult.
You're an adult.
You're
but you
still
don't
a kid in
necessarily have to
college.
be settled as an adult.
Yeah.
You know
so
what I
that's,
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
So having the apartment first or
I
renting.
feel like you have
gives you a
time
little
to
more
get settled.
flexibility. Yeah,
And you also, some people don't necessarily, like, I don't love where I live, you know? I would love to be closer to the beach.
Yeah.
Which is funny for me saying I wanted to live in a city.
Yeah.
I want a much slower lifestyle now.
Florida.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Not in
I
this
like
market.
the Jersey Shore. Some parts of it. Some parts are really nice.
I know, but it's not.
Like there are some houses down there, like $10 million
I know.
plus. They're really nice.
I used to work down by the shore a long time ago,
Yeah.
you know, and not too long ago actually. I used to work down by the shore, but you know,
So
again, if you're gonna
nice.
live by the beach, you gotta live somewhere where it's gonna be nice all year. I need to be able to
That's
go out.
true.
I need to be able to go out to the beach. I'm a beach guy. I was, you know,
You
I was
lived in
born.
Egypt.
I was born in Alexandria. You know,
Yeah.
I lived
That's in
on
your
the
blood.
coast. It's in my blood. I can't.
New Jersey's not for you.
New Jersey is not for me. I'm here for family. That's as far as it goes. But you know, I would say definitely. I would move down to Florida tomorrow. Right now.
I would be a snowbird. I would go down to Florida in the winters and then come back. I like New Jersey. You get all 4 seasons. You have
Can't afford
access.
seasons. It's not a hotel. What are we doing?
First of all, don't scream at me. I like that we have the beach, the mountains, the
Yeah.
city, and we've got farms. Like we've got farmland. It is rural
Dude,
too. Like we've got a
It
lot.
looks so nice.
We've got a lot.
Have you been down by the farm, like the west side of
always
Jersey?
by the farms.
Oh my god!
I sold a farm.
You sold the farm.
I sold a
Get
40-acre
out.
farm. It was
What was that?
I think it was a wheat farm.
Oh, weed.
Wheat.
Oh, weed. I literally heard weed. I was like,
Not a weed farm.
the FBI is gonna be knocking at my door.
No. Definitely not
Releasing
one
the
of those.
podcast. You're like, we need to talk to this.
But you want to
woman.
know something? They had 40 acres, and I guarantee you no one's going to check all 40 acres. They probably could have gotten away with it.
Yeah. Where?
But no.
So where is that?
Hunterdon County.
That's south.
Yeah, no, that is
That's
northwest.
Northwest. Yeah. By Sparta. Sparta is further northwest.
Yes, Sparta's further northwest.
The only reason why I know Sparta, I had a friend from college that she lived up
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Sparta's a nice
Sparta
area,
is
too.
very far.
It is very
It's like
far.
2.5 hours.
Yeah, about 2 hours from here.
It's crazy.
Wait, speaking about farms,
Yes.
is there actually tax breaks for farm owners?
Yes.
Can you talk about that? Because I'm actually curious about
You
that.
want to buy a farm?
I do, actually.
I would love to buy a farm.
He's gonna be
So-
one of those guys that will live on a farm. He's gonna have some cattle.
Yeah, I want to be in the middle of
Yeah,
nowhere.
so
Yeah.
there are agricultural tax breaks that you can get. One of the girls on my team actually lives on a 38-acre farm, and her taxes are so low. But there are a lot of expenses involved in owning a farm. Like you have to tend to the farm, and that's expensive when you've got that much acreage. So she has someone that I don't know if he lives on the farm or if he just comes every day and he takes care of the farm. Some people, there's actually one of our churches is on a farm.
There's a few of them, actually.
Yeah.
The one in Monroe.
The one in
Oh,
Monroe
yeah,
is
yeah.
on a farm, and
Abuna Michiel owns a farm, too.
one of the
Oh yeah.
one of the things that they do that actually is really nice and brings money to the church is they rent the stables. They have stables. So someone could come and bring their goats, and as long as that someone is willing to take care of their goats, they can leave them on the church's farm. Yeah. So they get a bunch of tax breaks there. It's a church and a farm.
That is actually very true. But so hold on a second. So you said that you have to tend to the farm.
Yeah.
Do you have to actually like plant
Yes.
seeds
Yes,
and like
you have
grow
to.
crops and all that?
Yeah, you gotta make your money something. What's the point of a farm if you're not gonna use the stuff?
You
that it
can't let the
grows?
soil go bad, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't let the soil go bad, but you don't technically have to grow anything as long as it's not going bad.
Well, you do. Depends on
I
the
don't know
farm.
anything about
it depends.
agriculture.
Like
I don't- I
if you
know
have a
nothing.
wheat farm, you don't want all your wheat to die. That's your bread and butter. You sell the wheat.
So then you end up becoming a
Wheat.
farmer.
Yeah,
Yes,
Oh,
I would be a farmer.
I would be a farmer too.
I would love to be a farmer.
I don't know how to be a farmer.
No.
You learn.
I mean, I can run your cables. I can do your Wi-Fi and stuff.
Yes, because there's going to be a Wi-Fi on the barn.
I'll design the farm.
design the farm.
Have a server rack in the farm.
It'd be like
Yeah,
The
right?
Sims.
A solar farm.
Sims in real life.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but it doesn't have to be a big farm, right? You can have
Yeah.
a 5-acre farm, and
Okay.
you can have like chickens, and
I want
Oh, yeah.
chickens
I'm
down
so
with chickens.
bad.
that's it. That's all
I'm
you.
down with chickens.
I
can do
told
chickens.
Mark I want chickens in my backyard.
And then you can have like we can have like
HOA.
Mama and Bubba like
We
plant
can't have
some-
chickens?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying.
I think we could have
I
chickens.
just threw that out there.
You can't breathe without the HOA telling you where to breathe.
I don't know. I don't.
My
I literally
HOA
just
is
said
kind of
that.
dumb, though.
I literally just said that just to.
I hope
scare
they
her a
hear
little bit.
this.
I don't know.
My HOA is crazy. They tried to tell me for 2 years that I couldn't get a fence where I wanted to get a fence. But they also say that every garage door has to be painted a certain color. And the minute you drive into the neighborhood, there's a bright blue garage door
Dude,
that no one's getting fined for. So you know what? I'm putting my fence wherever I want.
what's
I
the
hate
honestly?
the HOA.
What's the point of the HOA? I know it's to keep the value of the houses from not going down, have uniformity and everything. That's
Yes and
fine.
no.
It's to assert dominance.
Yes.
That's literally all it
That's
is.
literally what it is. So for big multi-unit, like apartment or townhouses, you kind of need HOAs,
Right.
But for a community of single-family homes with one
useless.
sign out in the front and like a community park,
Yeah.
we don't really need it.
You don't.
Like that community park could be run by the township. That would be so much better.
No, I don't want that.
I think it would be great.
No,
Why
I
they?
don't.
But, I don't know.
Bad
They would
things happen.
clean it.
Bad things happen in the parks.
I know that's true.
No,
But
not
that-
next to
yeah.
residential area. I'm sorry. Rather keep that on the lockdown.
I guess.
I don't know. Maybe
No,
I'm just
I
a little
agree. I
bit
guess
over
I
it.
agree with that. Like, it's nice to have the park just for the community.
Yeah. I mean,
But the HOA, like for single family homes with just a park and a sign, it's all neighborhood politics.
It is.
That's
100%.
why it
It is.
doesn't. That's why it is like just a dominance thing.
The I feel like life is high school on repeat.
Yes,
100%.
I agree with you.
I'm serious.
I hear that like every day I have to deal with a new problem, and I'm like, how old are we? Like, what do you mean?
You have the teacher's pet. You have the class clown.
Yeah.
You have the class king and queen.
Prom king and queen, yeah.
Yeah. And then you have the.
I want to be the weirdo sitting in the corner that no one pays attention to. Just leave me alone.
Yeah, I want to be the emo guy.
There
I
you
walk
go.
in with my hoodie down.
You can't say that nowadays.
Oh, you really can't.
Well, that's a
I think you
derogatory
can.
term.
I don't.
think it
I don't.
is.
I don't know. I'm
had
I'm
an-
old. I don't
I
know.
had an emo phase.
Excuse me. I identify as 60-year-old. I don't.
I totally had an emo phase, and I loved every
I feel like
second
everybody
of
had
it.
an emo
Oh,
phase.
so fun.
Everybody.
I dyed my hair bright red. It was great. There was
Yeah.
purple in there at one point. I had a
Wait.
good
Does
time.
does Green Day account to or amount to emo? I don't know.
Green Day the band?
Yeah.
if you were
It's like
like a
punk rock.
hardcore Green Day person in middle school and high school,
Not a hardcore,
probably,
but I
like,
listened to Green Day. When I
you
was in
would
high school.
also, but listening to Green Day back then would also equate to like wearing like thick eyeliner,
No.
doing your hair
No,
a certain way,
no.
dressing a certain way.
No.
Green Day is more of a punk rock band.
I know, but
not
there's
emo.
there's some songs that are more like
That can be said about any genre.
depressing.
Country. Country's all depressing. It's not emo.
Country music is about drinking beer on a flatbed with your chick and then
I
watching the
feel
movie
like
or
that's
something.
such a vibe.
It
though.
is such a
As
vibe.
much as I don't like, me and Mark just got into country music like maybe a year ago,
He's the biggest Egyptian country music
and
man
we're
I know.
kind of loving it. I'm not gonna lie,
It
it's
is
such
vibe.
a vibe.
I get so much
sometimes.
heat for liking country. It's insane.
Yeah,
I used to give
we
him heat
still,
before.
We still get it, but some of
It's
it's
so
good.
chill.
It is so
chill.
Have you been down to like Tennessee or stuff like that? Have you been there? Like Tennessee,
No.
Kentucky, like these like little
Nope.
countryside. Okay, so we went to Tennessee. We went to a couple of other like country states or whatever. And at nighttime, man, you look up the sky,
Yeah, you see the
stars.
stars.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't see any of that
We don't-
anymore. There's
we
no
don't-
stars in New Jersey
you know, it's actually
unless you're by the farms.
dude. It's funny that you say that because it's true. Like if
Yeah,
if you
not
if
as
you
much.
go if you go down to Texas, right, down by Corpus or anything like that,
Yeah.
you look up at night in the sky, stars
it's insane.
everywhere.
It's
You know why,
beautiful.
right? It's just light pollution.
It's light pollution.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So
One time I was flying over Arizona and I remember opening the window and I had never seen
Yeah.
so many stars. It looked like sand on the beach.
Yeah,
That's how many
yeah.
stars there were. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen and I haven't seen it since.
And I haven't seen it
It's
since.
so
And
sad.
I've been here for so many years and I've never seen.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like back in the day, probably with not as much pollution as we do have now, but whatever. Like it is what it is. So I don't know. I mean, if it were up to me, I would move down to Florida.
If it were up to me, I would live
Tomorrow.
on a remote island with no people around. But Mark
Yes.
would never. Mark is too much of a social butterfly. He needs
is.
people. He doesn't even want to live like I told him I would love to live on a 38-acre farm like my like the girl on my team. And he's like, no, we need neighbors.
listen,
What do you mean? Why?
listen. If I want to go out of my backyard in my birthday suit, I want to be able to do that.
Dang, like I just want my own space.
Simple as that.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like, living in like on a 38, 40 acre farm or whatever is cool. But I feel like if you're not used to it's going to be a hard transition.
I love silence.
It's amazing. Silence is so
I
nice.
love silence.
No, I am not saying silence is not bad. I'm
hate
just
people.
saying. Listen.
You can't say that as a real estate
We
agent.
do not.
You want
We
to
do
know
not.
something?
We do not promote violence on this channel.
That's
but-
the hardest part of the job is the fact that I am very good with people,
Yeah.
but I don't like it.
But I mean, a lot of people can say the same thing about their jobs. But I feel like because you're customer facing a lot.
That's
100%.
all it is.
100%. You're
It's only
customer
customer facing.
and
There's no breaks from people.
but I
Need
feel
a
like
break.
you've gotten better at kind of weeding out your clients. Like you're
You would
more
think
selective.
so. You would think so.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There have been times recently where I just didn't want to work with certain clients, and
Yeah.
if that's the case, I will. Again, there's no amount of money that's worth the abuse that some of these
Yeah.
people will put you through, and I will hand them off to someone else to take the money and run because I don't want to deal with it.
Now I know that your mom is an inspiration to you.
Yeah,
You know,
she's the best.
Which everybody should aspire,
To be
look up
Mary
to.
Saba.
Yeah,
Yep.
in the real estate field
No, in general.
and in general. No, but was that a challenge for you, being like Mary's daughter?
Yes, for a long time.
You
For
know.
a long time, I lived in the shadow, and they were big shoes to fill.
Yeah,
Very big shoes to fill. But when I finally did start doing more business as Sarah versus Mary's daughter, I feel like I gained the respect of my peers and colleagues, and it took a long time. Like I've been doing this for 10 years. So that only happened like during the pandemic. In the past 4 years, I really kind of grew in. I was also in college. I was in grad school. I took a year off from real estate. So of the first 5 years that I was doing this, I definitely wasn't doing it full time. The last 4 and change years, I have been doing it full time. That's when I grew out of that. which is good.
Did that sort of make you question your decision of being a real estate agent when you saw that kind of, I wouldn't say like pushback, but like, the challenges of being like, Mary's daughter? Did that make you question, should I really keep doing this?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes I didn't want to live in the shadow of my mom my whole life, but it was also more motivation for me to kind of figure it out and make it on my own.
And honestly, I know that you probably learned a lot from her.
I learned so much from her.
Like an infinite
The best way to make
of
money in real estate is to find a top producer and stick with them. So I was
shadow them the whole time.
I was very fortunate and blessed to have that opportunity, and I don't think honestly that I would be in this industry if I didn't have that opportunity. So I'm happy I took it and ran with it and turned it into something of my own. So now in the industry, I am known as Sarah the Realtor, but also like Sarah the designer. That changed.
Right.
So I build that persona for myself that my mom definitely doesn't have. So I took what she gave me, and I was, again, very blessed for the opportunity. A lot of people would not have the same opportunity, but I saw an opening and I kind of ran with it.
100%.
Yeah. You got to do what you got to do.
So people that don't have their Mary Saba, what do you say to them that want to get into this field, especially now in this market that we're in right now?
I would say find a top producer and stick with them. That's the best way to learn.
How do you do that?
A lot of people, there's top producers at every office.
I know,
you
but like,
offer to buy them coffee and shadow them and do their dirty work. In all honesty, that's what you kind of have to do, and that's what I was doing for my mom. It's not like I was just making money by association. I was doing all of the admin work, the stuff that nobody really wants to do.
The paperwork, the reaching
all
out,
the back office stuff that like now we have, thank God we have a team for, but before I was doing it all myself and I hated it. But that's how you learn.
But you learned a lot.
That's how you learn. That's the whole business.
You know who you reminded me of? I was watching this video about the Samsung family that makes cell phones and TVs and all that, right, in South Korea. So the CEO of Samsung or the founder, it's like a family business basically. And
didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't
pretty
know
cool.
I didn't know that either. So check this out. So the CEO has a couple kids, right? And one of them is a daughter. So when she's done with her college, he sends her to be the mail girl in like the first floor, like the basement of the company. And she was there for 5 years and nobody knows who she is.
That's cool.
And
good for him.
Did you know about this? So yeah, she's the Samsung CEO founder daughter.
That's
and
pretty
she's
cool.
working as the mail girl. Like she's handing out the mail and like sorting them out in like the basement,
Yeah.
And she would go up and down the departments, and she was there for 5 years just learning the ins and outs of the business. And
worked her way up.
And that kind of reminded me, obviously, you're
Yeah,
not
that's
a male,
cool.
but,
Well, so it's interesting because one of the best examples that I can think of with like family businesses is the CEO of a real estate company called Douglas Elliman. His name is Howard Lorber. His son tried to get into real estate, and you would think this man they sell billions of dollars worth of real estate on a yearly basis. Billions. And his son couldn't get into it. You can't, like, just because your family has something doesn't mean you'll thrive there.
Right.
So, like, my sister could never do what I'm doing. I could never do what she's doing ever in a million years. She's a doctor. I could never thrive in that environment. And she could never really do what I'm doing. And
it's also your passion, too.
Yeah. It also just so happened to be something that I found my solace in. Like, I was able to, I love real estate as a concept.
Right.
The practice of it is tough, and I don't like working with certain people. But I do love the concept of helping people build a chapter of their lives and helping them turn a house into a home. Like every time I'll work with a buyer, we'll walk into a house and they'll say, "What would you do here?" And I'll go crazy. Like I'll have a really good time. We'll knock down this wall. We're gonna paint this. We're putting in skylights. Like we're doing the whole thing, and I have a great time. And it's like my favorite thing to do. So I definitely took what my mom had built from scratch and changed it into something else. And now as a team, we work very well together. But it's funny because I used to work with her. Like I used to do her paperwork and her stuff. And I actually kind of miss doing it because I spent a lot of time with her back then. But now we don't spend as much time together, even though we're on the same team. But it's good, thank God. I have my own thing. She has her own thing. And sometimes we work together. When we work together on the same deal, it's really funny.
You guys clash?
Oh, yeah. Like I'll call her and I'll yell at her. Not yell at her. But
it's like as a partner.
Not even.
Or
she's like, "Sarah, no one else talks to me like this." And I'm like, "You know what? You're the only person in this industry that I can be really brutally honest with. So I'm going to."
Yeah.
But it's fun. We have fun.
It's I can really, because my dad and I we worked together for about 4 years. When we had a business together. And we would yell at each other.
We don't yell at each other
or whatever.
But we clash. We definitely clash. We have different styles.
Heated conversations.
We definitely have different styles. Like I have way more boundaries.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we share clients. Sometimes we'll have like one client that we're both co-listing agents on the seller's house. And we'll be in a group chat with the seller, and they'll text at like 11:30 at night, and I'm like, "Mary, do not answer." And I call her Mary. And everyone thinks that's the weirdest thing. But that happened before we started working together. She's my best friend in the whole world. So you know what? It is what it is.
Yeah.
So I'll text her, and I'll be like, "Do not answer. It's 11:30 at night. We need to set boundaries. These people can't bug us." Like, especially now as I am about to bring a baby into the world. Like, I need time with my family untethered. Like, I just don't want to be working. And she's like, "But they're nice people. We can answer them. We don't have to answer everyone, but these guys are nice." And I'm like, "Okay, you're missing the point."
The point is you draw the line.
Yeah.
Just respond the next day so that we didn't know at 11:30.
Yeah, I have boundaries. She doesn't have any. She's like, "It's fine. Everything's fine."
But also, the thing with our parents is that it's a different mentality. It's a different upbringing from the way that we were brought up. It's a different time.
Yeah.
That they were brought up. Things were so much better back in the day than they are now. People were a lot more friendlier and
oh yeah, people are so easy
nicer.
To be mean nowadays.
Yeah. So it's like, for her to say that, and my dad is the same way too. Like, you're a business, and I kind of miss working with my dad because we got closer. So it's a really good experience, and it's awesome that you still work with your mom. But like, at the same time, it's like their thought process is more of, it's okay, let's, this is like from the back in the day thinking process, not like us where it's like, hey, if you don't say boundaries, they're going to do more.
They're going to run you over.
Yeah. So,
and they do.
There you go.
They do.
Sarah, it was super awesome having you on tonight.
Thank you. I had a great time. Let's do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Where can somebody find you on socials? I know you have a bunch of pages or something, and I always see your videos.
I have 2 pages. I have at Saba Fares Group, and that's the real estate / interior design page. And then I have my personal Instagram, which I don't want to share.
Cool. All right.
I mean, it's really easy to find if you follow the first one, but it's fine.
So you always post like videos of like houses that you tour and like the setups and that stuff?
It will just post anything and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Anything I change in my house goes on there. Like, there's a lot of my house on there. There's a lot of the houses that I design on there. Some of the real estate stuff. So, yeah, it's a fun page to watch.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I had a great time, And I hope you did as well.
Yay!
We'll
Thank
see you in
you.
the next one. Thank you, everybody.